Hello, this is James Barkell, and you're listening to the Coach Doctor podcast. In today's episode, I interview Sean Irvine from Inside Motivation. Sean's specialty is working with teams in both the business and the sporting world and developing team effectiveness. His philosophies are based on a scientific approach to how teams work. It's not just about on-field performance, but improving team effectiveness. Sean has both a dry Irish sense of humour, but also a passion for developing teams through what he refers to as the 6 team conditions. These include a compelling purpose, having the right people, the real team, a supportive context, a sound structure, and effective coaching. I hope you enjoyed this chat with Sean Irvine as much as I did. Sean, tell me a little bit about your background and mainly how you ended up at Inside Motivation.
Yeah, I can do that. So I spent 26 years as a leader in operations, running manufacturing operations, mostly manufacturing engineer. And all through that time, I found that it was the people that made these organizations work. So I did a lot of work around how the people were working together. All that started off just making up my own stuff, but then started to do a little bit of research into it and find that I really wanted to get involved in organizational culture. So about 10, 12 years ago, I moved into a different role within CSR and started to work on their culture and help other people work on their culture. And as that went through, we found that it started off as an external coming in to help CSR, then it became somebody internal helping CSR, and then it became the individuals and different bits of the organization doing their own stuff. So I was training people on how to work on their culture and that kind of thing, and found that all along, whilst coaching the individual was important, the individual leader, and them understanding their culture and how it worked, the key to success was the team that led that. So I started to do some research into teams, and I looked at Lencioni and some other bits and pieces, found them useful, but then progressed on into something I've called the 6 team conditions, fell in love with it. But whilst I was doing that within an organization and training all these people, I become less and less important and only needed for really serious, what we call it, dramatic things that were going on or got really bad. So I almost became redundant, which wasn't a bad thing, because one of the things of working on culture and helping other people to do the work is that you don't actually see what you're doing. Very often you have to go back a year later and you see, oh, these guys have done a really good job with the information I shared with them, but your sense of satisfaction is lost a little bit. So I thought, well, how am I going to build something myself? So that's when I decided that I would build Inside Motivation. And that would be focused around something that isn't well focused on today, and that is a scientific approach to how teams work.
Okay.
So rather than an individual coaching person moving into that field who understands how the individual is motivated, how does somebody who's worked in whole organizations bring the team perspective in? So that's how Inside Motivation started.
Yeah, nice. So Inside Motivation was your own baby. You developed it from the ground up. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about the research about the 6 conditions of effective teams.
I can tell you lots about it. How long have you got?
We've got plenty of time, mate. Plenty of time.
Okay, great.
But don't give away all the sneaky tips, because we want people to come back for more.
Okay. Well, I'll give you an overview of the model. It's well published. Anybody wants to read the books, look up Ruth Wagaman or Richard Hackman, 2 Harvard professors. They've published lots of stuff around it. Happy to share as well, more in depth. But I'll just go over the framework very quickly. Now, if you want to make a team effective, what is effective? That's the first question you must ask. And with the 6 team conditions, what they have reviewed is, yes, task performance. So I'm going to relate a little bit of this into sports, if that's okay.
Yep. No, that's perfect.
Yeah. So if task performance is important in team effectiveness, that's winning the game. Winning as many games as you can. That's really important.
Yeah.
But it's not the only thing. One of the critical aspects of team performance of team effectiveness is, next time, are we going to be better at working as a team? So every game we play, every training we attend, do we get better at being a team? Not a bunch of individuals, but as a team. And through that process, the third element of effectiveness sits at, do the individuals feel more satisfied? Are they learning? Are they developing? Are they getting what they need out of working as a team? Because that will keep them motivated, keep them there. But these are the three aspects of team effectiveness. So the whole research is based on that. What are the key elements that make that happen? So first of all, in between the actual elements that we can work on, they found there was some what we call almost dynamics, but key task processes that sat in the middle. And these are the things that we felt and do to get these outcomes. Motivation, effort. Do we all want to put some effort into achieving the task the team is there to achieve? Are we motivated? And we've seen that some players, you can see them, particularly in junior rugby, you see them not actually motivated at all, don't really care. You see other people that are motivated for different reasons, but not towards the team purpose, which is winning the game. Some players, you see them motivated towards, how great do I look?
Yeah.
So you see all these different things. So that motivation towards the team task is really important. And that is not something we can change, but we can measure it and we can see what it's working at and what it's doing. And it's a critical part. Another one is, are we inventing new ways of working together? So that is part of the key centerpiece. So a team that's performing well will work on new ways itself of working together. If this is a senior leadership team, this research is done on senior leadership teams in Fortune 500 organizations, medical teams performing emergency pediatric surgery, airline crews, lots of teams all over, and they found this is the same everywhere. And it works for sports too. A really, truly effective sports team is working in different ways in different times.
Yep.
And they find new ways of working. And the third piece of that element, are we using everybody's knowledge and skills?
Okay.
We found in industry that it's not necessarily the loudest person that's the cleverest in the room and has the most experience in a certain area just because they talk the loudest.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same in sports.
Oh, definitely. There's definitely, you hear about leadership groups, and predominantly in the leadership group, you've got the players that are the most experienced, that played the most games. Yet you might have an 18, 19-year-old player or an athlete who has some really, really good ideas, but because of their status in the team, being the rookie, they're less likely to promote their ideas or speak up. So definitely there's situations with different teams where different people are less likely to talk and promote their ideas for fear that they might be persecuted, or for fear that they might be laughed at, or it's not their place and not their time, which sort of detracts from giving everyone's knowledge into the team and creating more knowledge rather than just the knowledge of a few people that we sort of focus on as the leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The leaders have been doing it one way for a long time, and they've found what works. And that's really important. We can't lose that either, but we can't lose the creativity of the new people coming in, because that's where we get it from. We get creativity from diversity.
Yeah.
So if the leaders that are sitting at the top, the older athletes, have a set of ideas that work, that's great. But that means they're more fixed to those ideas.
Yeah.
Whereas the new people will be more likely to try some new stuff and actually find some stuff that will be really cool.
Yeah. So what might be some strategies, for example, having, those three stages in terms of getting, buy-in, getting people to work, you talked about people having different goals or different, wants or requirements for playing a certain game or competing in a certain sport. What are some strategies that you might use to make sure everybody's on the same page? So at the end of the day, it's about the team success rather than individual goals or individual success.
So when we talk about the 16 conditions, there's a set of conditions that underlie all that
Yep.
we can put in place that these things will grow from.
Okay.
The really simple analogy is we can't tell people to be more motivated.
Yes. Yes.
But we can create an environment where they will be.
Okay. And how do we create that environment?
That's easy. That's where the 6 conditions come into play.
Okay.
So we've got 3 essential conditions that underlie that, and they're
Yep.
the foundation. They form the foundation. These must be in place before you go anywhere else.
Yep.
And the first one is that you've got a common purpose.
Okay.
Really simple. That sounds straightforward. Now, once again, I'll relate these 16 conditions into sports because they really work well with sports. Sports are almost designed around these naturally, and that's why we have team sports. They come about because a lot of these conditions are inherent in the game of sport, but only for the team on the pitch. And we'll come to that. I think we'll chat about that later. But the team on the pitch have a compelling purpose. They want to win. But when that compelling purpose, as you rightly say, is diluted with some players who want to, they are good players, they're valuable to the team, but it's more important that they look good than the team wins. And that can really negatively impact the team because it demotivates other people, all that sort of stuff. So that compelling purpose, it must be something that we've got the whole team involved in.
Yep.
So we start off with, let's take a format for that compelling purpose. We will, this team exists to win the championship. It's not this game, it's the championship.
Yep. Okay.
We exist to win the championship. We will do this by. These are the key things that we set in place that every team member must be involved in. So that, why do you want to win a championship? Why is it important? And actually, that's a nice piece. Everybody goes, oh, it's a championship. We've got money to pay the GM or whatever. We've got money to pay for the field and all the other bits and pieces. But there's more to it than that. What is that compelling purpose for each member of the team? Why is it consequential? Why does it matter? So we can have a clear purpose. We can have a challenging purpose. But unless we make that something that matters to every team member, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So it doesn't become more important than their own purpose.
Yeah. It's quite hard to define why it's, you want to win a championship. It's just something you want to do. It's, I guess, a sense of achievement.
But if we take a professional athlete who has a career and they want to achieve well and get to the highest level, they want to play for the Wallabies, that's whatever, or even the All Blacks if they're really good. If we have a player who wants to do that and that's their purpose, we have to link the consequentiality of this championship to their purpose in a higher way than their individual performance will.
Okay, so what we want to try and do is link each person's individual goals with the team goal and see if we can all achieve this team aspect. There's offshoots in directions that you can take to also achieve your own goals. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So in manufacturing, we often have an operations manager who heads up a team, which can be technical people, but the crux of the team is a production manager and an engineering manager. These two guys both want to be an operations manager. So what will happen is they will compete for that role and when they're competing against each other, until they see that this manufacturing operation being successful is how they will get an operations manager role somewhere else. So linking themselves with, let's say, I know you're a little bit connected to the Blue Twos. Let's say the Blue Twos turn around and become top team.
Yep.
You're a member of that team.
Yep.
Your reputation in the rugby community will soar, and that's how you will get to be part of a bigger team.
Yeah.
And a bigger thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
not by being better than other players on the Blue Twos.
Yeah. Two blues.
Yeah. I'm lick dexic, so
No, that's all right. That's all right. No, I mean, that's quite common in team sports, especially, where there's two athletes going for the same position. Let's say there's a specialist position like hooker or halfback, where
or fullback. I think we
fullback, where you've got two people competing for it, but we want to see the team succeed. It's quite a difficult situation, and how would you in that case handle that with those two athletes?
With those two athletes, they're competing for this. Neither of them are going. Whenever there's only one position, if it's a fullback or a hooker, there's never only one position on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what you need to be working on is two players that are sharing that role, one coming in at the end of the game, the other one at the start. There will be times that will change around. You've got to make that very matter of fact.
Yeah.
This is when you will be playing, this is when you will be playing. You have different skills that are going to be really important. This team have a habit of kicking the ball behind your back. George, you're no good at turning around and running after that ball.
Yeah.
But Billy, you are, so you're playing today. But not only that, whenever you two can help each other, there's not just one role you're going for. And beyond this, there's not just one role. So how are you two going to help each other be the best that you can be?
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah. Okay. So make it more about making each other a better player or a better athlete.
Yeah.
And then also assigning that to teams' achievements as well.
And it's not, one player doesn't get placed because he's better than the other player. One player gets put on the team because they have a better skills for this week.
Yeah. Yeah. And what happens if I think it was George and Billy. George 5 weeks in a row has sort of sat on the bench or has been in the reserve grade team. And George is starting to get a bit, he thinks he's got better skill set. What do we do in that situation? Is there any, one of the things you did talk about was, being honest and open and talking to both the players throughout the process, throughout the selection process, which I think is really, really important and a really valid comment. But what do we do if, 5 weeks down the track, George says, oh, well, look, I'm not getting my chance. What do we say then when George starts to kick stones?
At week 2?
Maybe week 5.
No.
Oh, yeah.
You've missed the ball. If you're doing it at week 5, you've missed it.
Okay.
At week 2, you're helping George to get on the team.
Yep.
You're telling him where he can improve. You're helping him you're sharing with him how he can improve. You're giving him the opportunity. There's obviously something. If George is sat on the bench for 5 weeks, there is a reason.
Yep.
He's not doing something as well as he could. If you as a coach want your team to be the best it possibly can, you could lose you could lose Billy.
Yeah.
Injury. So you need to be working on George as well to get George up to the standard.
Yeah. And I think that's really, really important for coaches is don't ignore the reserve graders or the subs. Make sure you're constantly, and it's almost, I think we've had this conversation before, Sean, it's almost to the point where you almost need to work on those players below even more. Just to keep them motivated, as you said, we're talking about motivation, to keep them motivated, to keep them engaged. You just need to be working with those guys just to make sure that they know that they're being cared for and they're being I guess loved within the team. Would that be right?
Yeah. And you can take that to a little bit broader in that, and we were going to talk a little bit later about the different teams within a sporting organization. There's a team that we miss out very, very badly. And I think the All Blacks have got this quite well. The squad.
Yeah.
If you're on the All Black squad, you're an All Black. Yeah. And that squad has a purpose. It's to make the team win. Now, if your bench guy is sitting there and not contributing in some way through training to the success of the team that weekend, they're not part of a team. They're not part of anything. And they're a little bit lost and isolated.
Yeah.
So that's another piece that makes them feel not part of this team and drift away. So that focus of, no, we're not telling you who's on the team. We're all here as coaches. We're all here in training to get a team that's going to win. And we need everybody. We need all 40 to make that team work.
Yeah, yeah.
It won't work otherwise. And if we look at the way the All Blacks play, it's very much like that. They have a squad. Yeah. And that squad is, well, in New Zealand, it's worshipped. You could be an All Black without ever playing a game.
Yeah.
And still be able to wear the jersey, stand up in front of people and say, yes, I'm an All Black.
Yeah. Yeah.
And talk even more about how it is to be part of that community.
Okay.
So we've only covered one condition. So let's talk about so the next piece is really easy. Once you know what your purpose is, you have to pick the right people.
Yeah.
Now, there are things that we have in business we call them derailers. There's some people who don't want to follow the purpose, aren't interested in it. They might not be the best players. If you have a player, and you have to think about the net worth. So if you have a player who is pretty good at the game, but actually detracts from everybody else more so than he adds value from his own skills, that player isn't worth having.
Yeah.
Well, and if you focused on the net contribution, if you take your 5 week on the bench guy, right, and you say that 5 week on the bench guy is actually, whenever these two fullbacks are working together, he's actually making this other fullback absolutely awesome. You've got to recognize that value.
So he's adding, so that bench player is adding a lot of value by pushing the guy in front of him, and just generally by his attitude at training and effort within the group.
As simple as you put one fullback on one side of the pitch, the other fullback on the other side of the pitch. The reserve or the bench guy is actually kicking the ball to the spot that he sees the other fullback has a blind spot.
Yeah.
This is where I saw you drop it 3 times in the last game. I'm going to put it there. I'm going to keep putting it there. And then I'm going to say, hey, if you stood with your feet the other way around, whenever you see that happening, you're going to be able to get to that ball quicker.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. If you can see that, you need to recognize that as a coach as well.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, so, and you know, not everybody ends up with a rugby career as players either. So there's coaching, there's other things like that as well that come out of playing rugby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next element of the essentials would be a real team.
Yep.
Now that means that the team is stable. So we've got a reasonable amount of stability. You don't want to be changing everything all the time. You can do that better with a stable squad as a team, and then as stable as possible a team on the pitch, because they learn how to play together. Simple. Needs to be what we call bounded, but that's really easy, because for a sports team, it's really easy because you wear the same jersey. So that puts a boundary around the team. We all know who's on and who's off. And that's the All Blacks with the squad. They're all Blacks. They all have the same training kit, all that kind of thing. Yeah. But the third element of that real team is interdependence. How do we need each other? If you take to try and talk a little bit more about that, a rugby team is very interdependent on the pitch. You know, 15, 20, 30 halfbacks will never win the game.
Yeah.
They're going to need hookers. Everybody's there to do jobs, and all the jobs rely on each other's job.
Yeah.
Cricket, on the other hand, isn't. Cricket isn't really a team. The only teams you get in a game of cricket are the batting partners.
Yeah.
Because they are working together. They're out running in. They're knowing what each other's doing. But actually, when you go out to the fielders, I've got a job to do. This is my silo. They're in their silos all around the pitch. Okay. Fielding, you're in silos. Bowling, I'm in a silo. Might work a little bit with the wicket keeper. Might be a little bit of interdependence there, but not so much. And if we go to rowing, rowing is a co-acting group, not a team at all. A rowing 8 is a co-acting group who all need to do stuff together in synchronization. nicely coordinated, but actually don't rely on each other at all.
Okay, I find that hard to get my head around, because if a rowing team loses that synchronization, you are relying on the guy in front of you or the guy behind you to make sure you stay synchronized. So just sort of unpack that a little bit more for me.
And yes, with the rowing team, it's actually, I have to coordinate myself around the rest of the team and keep that coordination.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't make the person next to me more coordinated. Whereas at the back of a ruck, the performance of the halfback depends completely on the way that ball is presented to them.
Okay.
So I can impact the performance of the person next to me significantly by doing my job a little bit differently.
Okay. Yep.
So in rowing, I've got one way I can do my job, and the guy next to me has to match up with that.
Yep.
And each of us have to match with each other. And we keep that pull on the same, and we do all that. But in rugby, if I present the ball, if I throw the line out ball in badly, the jumper won't catch it.
Yeah. So
if I throw it well,
there's a lot more reliance on somebody completing their core skill or whatever they need to do for the other person to achieve, their role.
Yeah. And to that end, if the ball is thrown in badly by the hooker, the scrum half doesn't have a hope. It's much more difficult for the scrum half. So you've got steps of it as well. So there's a real interdependence in that game.
Okay. Yep.
So that's important to creating a team. So when we think about that interdependence on the pitch, how do we create that interdependence in the squad? How is the 15 who you're quite often getting on the pitch reliant on the other team, on the other guys in the squad?
Yeah.
What is important? So how can you put that into your training?
Okay. So
make that clear.
Okay. What are your ideas around that?
So it's kind of like, how are you using the rest of the squad as coaches?
Yeah.
Do you go up to let's Billy and George, the bench guy, and say, hey, you guys are, a coaching pair to help each other. You're not a competitive pair. Hey, can you help George with this problem?
Yeah. Okay.
This is something we're seeing. Can you two guys work on that? So it takes the two of them to work on it. You send them both off to work on it. You reward, and this comes later in the 16 conditions, you reward both of them for George's success at getting better at catching that ball in his left back corner.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the sort of thing you can do to create that interdependence in the squad that already exists. And it's an important element of teamwork.
Okay. Yeah, nice idea. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Keeps them engaged and keeps them working with each other rather than building up an issue with each other where, one despises the other one because he's trying to take his spot, or the other one despises the other one because he's got his spot and he wants to come and get it. So,
and if that weekend you go out and you're the coach and you're on the touchline, whatever, and you're walking up and down, and George catches that left back corner ball well, you go and pat Billy on the back.
Yeah.
And you say, well done, Billy, you got him to do it. That adds that extra element. Yeah. And then you get George to do the same thing for Billy.
Yeah, I really like that idea, really like that philosophy. It's something that personally I haven't considered that part of my coaching before. So definitely something worth considering in the future.
Good. Yeah. So that's two. The third of the essentials is that we've got the right people. Now, it's funny, I'm working with a group this afternoon.
Yep.
And it's a team of, they're all PhDs, so you know how bad they are. Great bunch of guys. They're all males, they're all engineers, they're all PhDs. But here's the thing, they've got a slightly different mix of skills, but not enough.
Yeah.
There's none of them are business orientated to get that as well as could be, all that sort of thing. So having that diversity of skills as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things that can be missing, and we select captains for our team, and there used to be a vice captain and pack leader and all that sort of thing. We select those people based on the respect the rest of the team have for them, but giving them some understanding of how teams work can make a significant difference. And we will see that the All Blacks have had this, and really excellent sporting teams have had that. But within their team, they have team skills, an understanding of how teams work.
Yeah.
And it's when you have the older person, whenever somebody says something to Billy, who's been on the bench for 5 weeks, he says, no, actually, it's Billy's fault that he's out there because Billy got him to do that left back corner thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's somebody who can stand up for other members of the team, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's somebody who can say, hey, no, you've played rugby for 20 years, whatever, but let's hear the new guy.
Yeah.
It's somebody who has that. Those team skills and team coaching skills, which are a little bit different to sports coaching, but teams coaching skills.
Yeah.
Somebody who has those, who can pull that knowledge and skill in, giving whoever's going to be your captain that set of skills and understanding of them is really, really important.
Yeah. Okay. So do you part of your role, do you work with, I guess, the leaders in developing those skills?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
because that wouldn't be just common knowledge. That wouldn't be something that, you know, a lot of people just naturally have. That would definitely be something that you need to learn and develop, I'd say, over time.
yes. And it's a courageousness as well.
Yep.
Because you're putting yourself out there for people, and you could get shot down as well. So that it's a courageousness, and it's also a skill that you can do it constructively without damaging the other person's psychological safety. So creating that psychological safety that everybody can have ideas, everybody can have a thought. When we go on the pitch, this is the game plan. Let's do it this way. We need to go outside that. Yeah. You know, we can think of something different.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, about a really good team will harmonize around the difference as well.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So those are the essential conditions. We don't have the right skills and the right diversity, we won't have it, and those include team skills. It's quite obvious, if we don't have anybody who's able to hook, we won't win the championship.
Yeah.
Yeah. You and I did that, didn't we, to schools once? They didn't have any front row at all, did they?
No.
So we've got that, and then the enablers sit on top of that. So the first thing that we need in the enablers is a supportive context.
Yep.
And that is, have you got your resources, your education, your consultation, all that? A lot of that's applied to the team on the pitch.
Yep.
Bit of it, but not a bit of it. Most of it's applied to the squad. But where does this sit outside that team? Where do we get teamwork outside the pitch in a rugby club? That's something we can talk about later. But those outside things that are provided for the team are essential. The team won't be successful without them. If you don't have the gym,
yeah,
you know, if you don't have access to a gym, if you don't have access to any coaching, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
So that's one enabler. Very important that we reflect on that. Maybe not such an issue with a sports team on the pitch, but let's think about it whenever we get to different teams around the rugby club. Then we've got the next of the enabling conditions is the sound structure of the team itself.
Okay.
In leadership, what we'll say is that in a leadership team, a leader sets the mountain and the team decides how to get there. And this is a concept that might not be transferred into rugby as well. But if you think about it, if you tell the team, we need to get better at X, and then ask them, how are we going to do that? They're going to come up with some ideas and some key tasks towards that. And if the team is coming up with the key task of, actually, each one of us needs to run a mile a day or something like that, or, they will actually commit to it because it's their idea.
Yeah.
Rather than it being a punishment from the coach.
Yeah.
So it's that we actually need to do this. So actually, no, coach, you'll find them whenever they come up with that idea, and I'm sure you've seen this, where a couple of players or a few players will actually hang around after training to do something that they have thought of that improves a problem that the coach needs fixed or the team needs fixed. And they'll do that.
Yeah, definitely.
They'll do that a lot quicker when it's their idea than when it's your idea as the coach.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So giving them the problems to solve and using their ideas around that. So those key tasks are the structure within. They will then, one of the things that's really important. So if you take your whole team and you say that the purpose is to win the championship because we're all going to have successful rugby careers, being a bit flippant there, but that's your purpose. When we come to the key tasks, well, what are the key tasks for the team? But then we've got the norms of behavior. So defining those norms of behavior around winning the game or getting to the purpose. What are the key things, right? We need to train like this. We need to treat each other like this. George and Billy need to help each other to get better. These are the norms of behavior within our squad. And when the team comes up with those norms of behavior, they enforce it with each other. And that's where you can actually see that if you've got the purpose at the top, which is going to improve everybody's career in rugby, then the team starts to hold themselves accountable around the behaviors that achieve that purpose. It's actually as soon as the person steps out of line and becomes centered around themselves, the team hold that person accountable. Okay. And that's the piece of how we get around it.
Yeah. Okay, nice.
So that finishes the loop. So that the sixth condition is coaching. And the coaching that we talk about here is not the physical coaching, not the beautiful piece where you say, hey, this guy is our scrum half is hooking the ball and it's going a little bit too high sometimes. Hold your hands a little bit higher whenever you're waiting for it, Mr. Right half. It's not that coaching. It's the coaching around team. So having coaches who understand team and understand the nature, and there's a few little bits that you'll have seen that naturally in that. There's a few little bits that were a surprise, and there's a few little bits that are built into rugby, but a coach that understands those can translate those out to the squad and make a winning team a lot better, a lot quicker, a lot more effectively.
So you're talking more the coaching in terms of needing to develop those other 5 key areas.
Yeah.
Team
coaching. And then looking at when you've got that basis for the team and got all those conditions in place, the coaching then runs around motivation. And the motivation is giving them something they can do that will help them achieve the goal. Okay. So a little bit of direction around that. It's about the strategies. Okay, guys, this isn't working. What else can we do? It's building those strategies. And that is, oh, hey, every time we throw this ball left, they clobber us. We might have to throw it right instead. Those are being able to adjust your strategies to a circumstance.
Yeah, okay.
And the last one is, hey, no, let Billy speak.
Yeah.
He's got value too, even though he's only 12. So all those little bits add together. And that coach who understands team as well. And that team coaching doesn't have to come from the coach. It can be the captain.
Yeah.
It can be a player in the background.
Yeah.
Making sure that all those conditions are in place all the time.
And you think it would be important to actually educate your team around all of these factors so that they all know this is why we're doing this. This is why we're talking about this.
Well, not only the best way to educate them is, and this can translate into the bigger team. I'm an engineer, so I'm very data driven.
Yep.
And that's why I love this framework for teams and this way of looking at teams, because it gives you data points you can work on, but you can also measure them. So we can accurately and reliably measure how well a team is working together.
Yeah.
And if we do that, we can take the team through that.
Yeah.
And if we find that, oh, your purpose isn't consequential, why not? Let's do some work on that. Or your norms. You don't have good norms of behavior. They're not effectively achieving the goal. In business, you get a lot of HR people say, oh, how to create norms or rules of ways of working. They say, oh, how do we need to be for each other? That's rubbish. Never do that. Your norms need to be around how are we going to win the championship? What are the behaviors we need? And when a team decides that. So measuring those as well, we can measure all those things and how effective we are, and we can measure later after we put some things in place. But taking the whole team through that can actually putting the whole squad through that is a better place to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the team falls out of the squad.
Yeah.
And doing that actually focus your squad on membership or something bigger.
Yeah. So one of the things we've talked about is the team within the team and the wider team. So we're not just looking at the athletes on the field or the subs or the bench players, but we're also looking larger than that towards the boardroom and the wider community within the team. So do we need everybody on board, or is it just as long as those players on the field are on board, we're good?
Well, how many times have we heard reports of different people getting fired out of and arguments and disagreements around the board and around different members and around the bar? In smaller clubs, the barman is really upset because Jimmy didn't get on and he thinks Jimmy should be playing. So how do we actually create a purpose for all those different segments of a rugby club? So what is the board's job? When the board's job thinks it's to select the players, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
It's the board's job to select the director of rugby, not the coach. It's how do you structure your whole organization as a group of teams? And what is their job? One of the shoot shield clubs will not perform if the bar isn't working well.
Yeah.
So the team won't work. But how do we translate that into the admin team? And what's their role? And what's their success look like? And what are they rewarded for? And it's not selecting the team.
Yeah, and you do hear a lot on on news where they talk about potentially a team in rugby league or soccer or whatever it be with a very strong roster, but they always underperform, and there's always this chit chat about what's going on in the background, and it might not be the players on the field, but there's things going on in the background, whether it be at board level or whatever, that is affecting, I guess, the team's on-field success.
So if you have, let's take Billy and George again.
Yep.
We're putting them out there and we're talking rugby. So you put them out there, you're doing all that work, the coach is doing all that work. It's clear to Billy that George is the better player and playing better at the minute. Billy doesn't feel that he won't be the better player at some stage. But if the coach sees that, George sees that, Billy sees that, it's quite clear, but they're all working towards all this sort of stuff. And then somebody from the board of directors insists Billy gets a game. all that group lose their efficacy. They don't believe that they can make a difference.
Mm.
And when that happens, you're lost. So if you believe that you can't make a difference, and sometimes what will happen is the hierarchy will take that impact away from the coach and the team.
Yeah. And that we see that often if there's a certain culture that the coach might be trying to drive within the group, but then the board isn't also following that same idea or that same methodology,
or supporting
the coach, then then that breakdown can occur.
Yeah. How often do you think Graham Henry gets told that you're doing it wrong?
Yeah. Interesting stuff.
And it's so much easier for a coach to have that authority with the board when they're winning.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But if you're trying to fix something, it doesn't get fixed. If a team is underperforming, it doesn't get fixed in a week or two. It takes a time to change that culture within the team.
Yeah.
And every time that this impact comes from external, it brings it back again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes people think they can't change the culture. It'll never be any different.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we start to lose. People start to get desperate. People start to get blamed. And that accelerates the losing.
Yeah. No, definitely. Oh well, Sean, any other ideas or thoughts that you have on this? I know you could talk about it for days, weeks.
It's really interesting for me because I used to play a little bit of rugby when I was a kid, nothing terribly spectacular. We did some work together, and just learning all this stuff from the business world and then seeing how it can apply to some of the things that aren't working within sporting organizations. It's just really, really cool that it's going the other way. Quite often we'll bring a high performing sports person to talk to organizations about teams.
Yeah.
It's not very often it happens the other way around.
Yeah, true.
Teams experts talking to sports people. And I think there's value in both ways.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of athletes that have been through, a high performing teams scenario where they've had to develop a lot of these skills that you've talked about, independently, and then they can take those skills out and try and teach them to the business world. But then, like you said, there's also, definitely some value for people like yourself that have done a lot of research into effective teamwork and effective team building, and then bring that back into into either the business world or the sports world. So
yeah,
fantastic.
And one of the other things that I've often used rugby as an example of is that a lot of team interventions start off with how are the relationships, and we think that good relationships within a team are the reason a team performs well. Because we see good relationships, good performance. We see those two things happen at the same time.
Yeah.
But actually, if those relationships are too good, the team underperforms.
Yeah, okay.
Because they don't want to hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
And not only that, it's actually setting the conditions in place creates the effectiveness, creates the success, which creates the relationships.
Yeah. So
the relationships are an outcome.
Yeah, you mentioned the term psychological safety a little bit earlier, and I think that's sort of what you're talking about now in terms of relationships can be too good, and we're sort of wary of that psychological safety. So do you want to just explain that or unpack that?
That's a good point. Because in this research, we have a lot of them, and this is where this research into teams is where the psychological safety research started. So the originator was a student of Richard Hackman, who put all this together and did this research as a piece of this larger research that I'm talking about, 6 conditions. But the psychological safety is not good relationships. If you could put it in a sentence, what psychological safety within a team is, I feel comfortable to put an unusual, surprising, different idea forward without retribution.
Yeah.
I think that if I do the wrong thing, think the wrong thing, I will get help from my team, not anything else.
Yeah.
So how do you create that culture within your team? Because that's a culture and an expectation. There's some lovely stuff about how culture works. If everybody laughs because somebody takes the piss out of somebody else, that's a reward. So we reward that bad behavior.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not a good thing in a team.
Okay. So like banter's or a bit of banter's all right, but not.
Banter's all right, but you have to draw the line. I've seen teams where actually this team nearly went out of business. And what it had was one guy doing the service and one guy selling the service as part of the leadership team.
Yeah.
Now, doing the service was having a lot of trouble doing the job. They had some problems with staffing and that sort of stuff and finances, and it wasn't working too well. I can't go into details, otherwise you'll know too much about the organization. I want to keep it a little bit confidential.
Yeah, no,
but the salesperson would always say something about this in a team meeting. And what would happen was there'd be a sarcastic laugh it off.
Yeah.
So they'd have a couple of sarcastic jibes backwards and forwards, laugh it off, best of mates, put their arm around each other. The problem never got resolved.
Yeah, okay.
So,
but then I guess then the opposite end or the opposite side to that would be that one person, points the finger and blames the other person and says they're horrible at their role, and that's not going to help either, is it?
Yeah. So let's say Jimmy drops the ball, right?
Yeah.
And somebody makes a funny little rhyme or something like that and use that or take the piss out of them. That's a very easy thing to do. We can all do that. But actually, if you want your team to perform really well, the right conversation is, hey, Jimmy, you did this. This is how you could do it better. You won't drop the ball then.
Yeah.
So that's a much harder thing to do and a much more mature thing to do.
Yeah. Okay.
If that ever comes from the coach, respect is lost.
Yeah.
The sarcasm, the joking. If it comes out, if one team member does that to another team member, a good reaction of a coach who's trying to create psychological safety within that team is, hey, yeah, I hear what you're saying. He did, yes, he dropped the ball, but hey, let's talk about this. How can you do that better? How can we fix this problem?
Yeah.
How can we as a team support the hooker?
Yeah.
A hooker can't, I don't know, I've sat in the middle of a scrum. You can't hook whenever your props aren't doing their job. You can't move your leg. It gets stuck because you're going to go down on your head. And how do we actually help the player do that?
Okay.
So that will build your psychological safety.
Yeah. Okay.
Leave the fun till the job's done. And the job is getting that player to do the thing that he needs to do. Okay.
Yeah, nice. All right, Sean. I think we've been speaking for just over an hour or close to an hour.
Pretty lovely.
I'm conscious that you've got things to do yourself and you've got a business to run.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on today and having this chat with me. And I know from Inside Motivation is primarily business focused, but you also work with sporting teams as well. And I think anyone who's listening to this would get a lot of gold nuggets out in terms of how they can improve their own sporting team's performance and just sitting there thinking about, when you gave the analogy of Billy helping George or George helping Billy, one of the things that came to mind was the Olympics, the final event in the decathlon, where one of the Australian runners or one of the Australian athletes was out of medal contention, but instead of putting effort into his own performance, he focused completely on one of the other Australian athletes to get him over the line to eventually win a bronze medal. So I think that would probably be a perfect example in an individual sport where two players are working for the same common goal.
And those two players will keep doing that because the media and their squads and their own coaching teams and all that have rewarded those two players for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Australia is recognizing that runner.
Yeah.
Who supported
That's showing great sportsmanship, and that's one of the things that we want in our teams to succeed.
And that's where we can miss out on the George and Billy thing. Reward that. When I said he catches the ball in the back left corner, whatever the thing is, reward Billy as well as George.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Sean, thank you so much again.
James, great to chat.
If you're happy for me to put your email on our show notes,
love it.
That'd be great. And if anyone listens and wants to get in touch, potentially, for some help with their teams or their business,
absolutely,
that'd be a fantastic opportunity.
Great.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
Thanks, James.
Cheers, mate.
Only a few days after this podcast was recorded, Sean alerted me to an article in the South African Independent newspaper. The article interviewed Dion Davids, the South African Springboks rugby team's assistant coach. They asked him about the team's success after making wholesale changes to the team who played against Argentina following the successful Lions series. Davids explained that the success of his much-changed team against Argentina owed to mentoring roles played by rested players from the British and Irish Lions series. The players who are not starting assist in preparing those who are. That is how the squad gets better, he said. The team always comes first, and all the individuals in the squad have different roles to perform to help the starting team play better. This sounds a lot like what Sean described in being essential to building team effectiveness.